The next reader is Casandra. She is a fiction writer from Southern California. During her formative years, she lived in Riverside County and then moved to Mexico City. She returned to Southern California when she was 17. Since then, she has tried to reconcile these two starkly different lives in her fiction.
Hello. Okay, my story is titled Chiquita. The steady sway of the window's sheer drapery soothed Alejandra. A strong breeze came in every evening, right before sundown, and even though she couldn't explain its punctuality, she was glad for it. It was the only time during the day that she could sit on the living room's plastic-covered couch. Because any time before that, the clear plastic that protected the red couch from wear would be hot and sticky. Alejandra used to be able to stand by the window to watch the sky turn indigo blue as the sun hid behind the city's buildings. Her gray figure, as it blended with the brown curtains that had been drawn open for the day, had startled her aunts at least twice before they complained. And then someone moved the red couch in front of the window so that she'd have to sit in plain view. It made her grandmother nervous to see her by the window, and it gave her aunts things to gossip about. She had heard them once whispering over the lavadero as they rinsed out their clothes that the reason it had to be a boy. But they had never seen a boy visit or call Alejandra. Nonetheless, they quickly agreed that when Alejandra's father returned from the north, they would warn him. But they were wrong. Alejandra had been keeping a secret for months, and her father's impending return had caused the secret to weigh heavily on her conciencia. The only place she found solace was by the window, where she could wait for the day to turn dark and wait for the next-door neighbor, a lady with long hair and red lips, to come home. Maybe if she climbed out of a green taxi cab with grocery bags in her arms, someone else would help her carry them inside her house, and Alejandra's father wouldn't have to do that anymore. Alejandra sat on the red couch with her back against one of the armrests, feeling jealous. Her pale, thin legs stretched out in front of her. She was still wearing her gold buckle shoes and plaid skirt because she liked the way they made her legs look. She hadn't changed out of her school uniform. She reached over with her left hand to pull over her right long-sleeve cuff to reveal a Chiquita bead bracelet that hung loosely on her wrist. She placed her decorative arm on the couch's backrest near the window, and she felt as the Chiquita beads began to warm in varying degrees under the September setting sun. The long-sleeved blouse she wore had concealed the bracelet while at school, but now that she was home and had time to admire her grandmother's craft, she would. All of Alejandra's dreams had gone into the making of this bracelet. She had wanted to use all of the colors available in her grandmother's craft organizer, but her grandmother had said no. Certain colors weren't appropriate for 12-year-old girls like her. Alejandra had wanted to change her opinion by explaining what each color meant to her, but no one argued with her grandmother. Muted colors were appropriate, her grandmother had told her. Black and bright colors were only for señoritas and Chiquita beads and huichol art. She knew more about being a señorita than her grandmother or aunts gave her credit for. The Chiquita bead bracelet her grandmother had made for her made her feel beautiful and grown up. She made a fast, twisty motion with her wrist. Right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, so that the bracelet would shake noisily. The beads making that plastic clinking sound Alejandra liked more than the sound of high heels on pavement. There were pearl white Chiquita beads intermingled with light blues, soft pinks, and shy greens that caught the sun's rays in their gentle curvature, the way floating butterflies get trapped in nets. Alejandra imagined pale butterflies telling her story about flying beneath the sun at high noon in bright colors, the way the monarch butterflies did when they escaped northern winters. The absence of color from their wings told her story. If her grandmother had allowed her to use more colors on her bracelet, Alejandra would have used hot pink Chiquita beads for the lipstick that she could not wear yet, and scarlet red beads for the blush that was lacking from her cheeks. Black beads for the smoky eyeshadow and short dress her aunt wore when her friend from work picked her up at night on the weekends. She would have used yellow beads for the gold loop earrings her grandmother had promised to buy her for her quinceañera. Cerulean beads cerulean blue beads for the way the sky looked when it darkened, and carrot orange for the color of the skirt the neighbor was wearing the first time Alejandra saw her with her father. But that night, sitting on the dining table with her grandmother, Alejandra had not mustered the courage to share her secret. All night she had tried, but couldn't. A door opened, and Alejandra knew that her grandmother and aunts had concluded their family meeting. They always started with one of her aunts calling Alejandra's grandmother into their room to talk about something trivial, like who was going to cook dinner the next day or do the shopping. But when they closed the door, Alejandra knew that her aunts were going to launch into that week's complaint. And then her grandmother would sit with Alejandra on the squeaky couch and talk to her about nothing at all until it was bedtime. Alejandra heard the door close and her grandmother's approaching footsteps. Her gaze never left the sky. She felt her grandmother in the room and could smell her sweet perfume. She would have disapproved of the way her skirt was scrunched up and the way her thighs were exposed because of the way she was sitting on the couch, hugging her knees close to her chest. But her grandmother didn't say anything and sat next to her on the couch in the dark. "He'll be back soon," her grandmother said. "I know. He's left for work before. I'm used to it," Alejandra said. "It doesn't mean it's easy for you, Alejandra. Everyone needs their parents. But my mother is gone and he's off at work. I'm all alone," Alejandra said, but regretted the words as soon as she said them. She turned to face her grandmother. Her gray figure seemed unaffected. Alejandra tried to remember the colored lipstick her grandmother had been wearing that day, or if she was wearing her favorite amber stone earrings to say something nice, but she couldn't remember. She almost told her grandmother about the time she saw her father carry the neighbors' grocery bags inside her house, and how they had closed the door behind them, and that every time she tried to think of her father, all that she could think about was the neighbor's orange flowing skirt. Her grandmother stood to switch on the lamp near the couch. She sat down, this time sitting closer to Alejandra. "Did you wear that to school?" she said as she tugged down at Alejandra's skirt, trying to cover her bare thighs. "No," Alejandra said, knowing that her grandmother would have been mad if she had. "You should change and iron your uniform for school tomorrow." Alejandra stood. "Abuelita, do you think we can make a Chiquita bead necklace?" Her grandmother nodded. "Mañana," she said, and Alejandra knew from her tone that she was referring to the future and not the next day. But she was okay with that because she wasn't ready to tell her grandmother her secret. Her father would be home soon, but mañana could wait. Yeah. Thank you.